Okay, well, let's go ahead and jump into our money questions. And by the way, if you have a money question, it's really easy to get to us. You just go to christianmoneysolutions.com, click on the show tab that's right there up at the top. You will see on the page a form that says ask a money question. You just put your name, your email address, and your question. Click submit. Boom, you're done. That's all that you have to do. This question comes from Keith. He wrote, should I tithe on my salary? Should I tithe on my salary? Well, Keith, thank you so much for sending in this question. I love questions about generosity because this is what God has designed us for, right? God has designed us not to be hoarders, but to be conduits through which his generosity flows. And so I love it when I get questions on this very, very important topic. So thank you for that, Keith. So from a biblical perspective, Keith, yes, your salary is a part of what God has entrusted to you. And so generosity should flow from it. God is the owner of everything, right? He's the creator of the sun, the moon, the stars. He owns it all. He made it all, so he owns it all, which includes the resources that you receive through the work that you do. I don't know, maybe you're thinking, well, but it's my work. I worked hard for this salary. And yes, you did, but everything is God's. It's all his. So as we look at the Bible, Keith, here are 4 principles that we find that guide us in our generosity. The first principle is this: giving is to be a priority. That's Proverbs 3:9. We're to give our first and our best to him. That's where the first fruits principle comes from there. Now, for most of us, and this answers your question pretty quickly, for most of us, that means that we are to give a portion of our gross, that's before taxes, income. So when God provides us with resources, we take a portion of that and we give it away. So giving is to be a priority. Before we do anything else, that's the very first thing that we are to do according to Scripture. Principle number 2 is that we are to give proportionally. So a tithe, use that word tithe. That means 10%. It's a percentage-based amount. Woven all throughout Scripture, we see the idea of proportional giving, so that those who have more, God has provided more is required of them. And so there's a percentage-based approach. So your generosity should reflect the amount that God has entrusted to you for the advancement of his kingdom. So giving is to be done proportionally. Principle number 3 is that giving is to be done sacrificially. Giving is not, biblical generosity is not meant to be comfortable. In fact, when you look at the scriptures, the examples that were given to demonstrate how our generosity should look are examples of pretty extreme sacrifice. One of the stories that I think about a lot is the widow's mite. And you may recall the story. Jesus at the temple treasury, and he is watching people give large sums of money to the temple treasury. And so he calls his disciples over. And hey, John, come over. Hey, Andrew, come over. Hey, Peter, come over. And he calls them over. And he says, do you see her? And more than likely, I'm thinking they're probably, if I'm them, I'm thinking he's referring to those that are giving large sums of money, right? And maybe in their heads, the disciples are thinking, yeah, man, look at what that person is giving. Man, God's going to be able to do some amazing things with that. Or look at how much that person is giving. They must really love God. And Jesus stops and says, no, do you see her? And he pointed out the widow and who gave 2 coins. And what did he say about her? He said that she gave more than anybody else. Now, why did Jesus say that? Was Jesus bad at math? Did he need to go through the 8 Money Milestones program? No. What Jesus was saying is that in God's economy, amount sacrificed always supersedes amount given. You see, God is far more concerned about what's left at home than what's put in the offering plate. You see, when that lady, that widow, went home, her life was dramatically altered. When those who gave large sums of money went home, supposedly, their lives weren't dramatically changed. But this lady, because she gave everything, her life was dramatically different. You see, she sacrificed much. Giving, from a biblical perspective, biblical generosity is sacrificial. And then finally, the final fourth principle that we have is that giving is to be done cheerfully. God doesn't want a bunch of grumpy givers. That's 2 Corinthians 9:7. And this makes sense, right? It makes sense, Keith. I mean, I don't know if you have kids or not. I have kids. If one of my boys came up to me and maybe it was my birthday and they're holding a gift and they say, "Here you go, Dad, take this gift." But they don't have a smile on their face. In fact, there's almost pain in their face as they're trying to hand me the gift. And they say something like, "Mom's making me give this gift. I didn't really want to. I want to do something else with it." And they're just giving it very begrudgingly. How would I accept that gift? Yeah, I do the same thing you would, Keith. I would say, just keep it. I don't need your gift. To be honest with you, that the resources that were used for that gift, they were probably my resources anyway, right? The resources God had entrusted to me. I don't need it. God's the same way. It's like, look, I don't need it. I want you to be a cheerful giver. So we're not giving out of legalism. We're not giving to earn favor, but it's an act of worship, gratitude, and trust. Worship means to ascribe worth to something, right? That's one of the reasons why we give. We're ascribing worth to something. Oftentimes when we think about worship, we think about singing. That certainly is a way to worship, but we also worship through generosity, trust. We give because it demonstrates trust, where we trust God and His provision. He's the owner of everything. And so it's an act that shows that, hey, we trust Him more than we do our bank account. We give because we are so grateful for all that God has provided us. He provided us with the greatest gift known to man. He provided us with Jesus. And so it's an act of gratitude. And then it's also an act of opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to financially participate in the Great Commission. God takes these resources and does amazing things with them, Keith. And so what an amazing opportunity that we have to financially participate in the Great Commission. In the 8 Money Milestones program, I talk about how a dad with a young son will invite the young son, to help mend a broken picket on a fence. Let's just say that the son's 5 years old. Now, does a dad really need his help? No. In fact, in a very real way, it becomes a lot more complex, maybe a little more frustrating. It's going to take a little bit longer than it would, as opposed to the dad just doing it on his own. So why does the dad invite his son to help mend that broken picket on a fence? Well, the invitation is about building a relationship. It's about helping the son get to know the dad a little bit more. It's about helping the son to become more like his dad. It's about allowing the son to be a part of something much greater than he could be on his own, because that son's going to go back in the house and say, "Mom, we fixed it. We did it." And so so God does that to us. He allows us the opportunity to financially participate in the Great Commission. And so what an amazing opportunity it is. So it's not do I have to, it's I get to. So there you go, Keith. That's a long answer to your question. Thank you so much for sending that in. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to get it to us. You just go to christianmoneysolutions.com, click on the show tab. You'll see a form that says Ask a Money Question. Put your name, your email address, your question, click submit. Boom, you're done. That's all that you have to do. We're going to take another quick break and then have one more money question.